Hi everyone. In this session, we're going to learn about SQL injection. SQL injection is one of the most popular attack used by hackers to get the database of the application. Okay. Now, in this session, we will understand what SQL injection is. We will understand the steps to find SQL injection. Let's say you have a website. Okay. Now you want to figure out whether that application, that website is vulnerable to SQL injection or not. So how you can find that? We will learn that. Thirdly, we're going to have a live demo over here. So we will have a website. We will perform the SQL attack on that website and we will get the database of that particular website. So when we'll do the demo, we will do both manually and using the tool. So manually, we will give the commands and we will communicate with the database. And using a tool, we will give simple scripts of a tool. SQLmap is the tool we're going to use, and we'll see how we can exploit the target using SQLmap. So to understand what SQL injection is, you need to first understand SQL. What is SQL? SQL is structure query language. See, there are a lot of languages these days. There's Swift, there's Python, there is Java, there's C, there's C++, and many more. Now, we are here talking about database. To communicate with the database, we use a language we call SQL, structure query language. Very simple language. You guys might have read it in your engineering or in BCA during your course. So what SQL injection is, we use SQL commands, we inject those commands in your website and we communicate with the database, right? You can communicate with your website directly. When you open a website, it's a front end for you. You can do a lot of things in your website. But if you want to communicate with the database, it's not directly in your hand, right? So what we do, we inject SQL commands in your website and we communicate with the database. What will happen with that? Using those commands, we can get the desired result. What kind of result? We can get the database. We can modify the database. We can delete the database. We can even get the RCE of the server, right? That totally depends upon the type of attack and the kind of behavior your application is doing. Okay? So this is what SQL injection is. Placement of malicious code in your website using SQL commands. Simple. Now, what are the different steps to find SQL injection? Here we're going to talk about one simple way. We're going to talk about union-based SQL injection. There are so many. There are time-based SQL injection. There is blind-based SQL injection. There is error-based SQL injection, and many more. Here we're going to talk about union-based SQL injection. So what is union-based? Basically, we use union commands in that. Okay. When we'll do the practical now, it will be more clear to you. Now, let's say you have a website, abc.com. We need to find out whether the application abc.com is vulnerable to SQL injection or not. How do we find that? So the first step is we need to find the parameter. So what is parameter? Here you see something is ID equals to 12. So this is what we call parameter. ID equals to 12, ABC equals to something, username equals to ABC, user equals to hello, anything equals to anything is basically a parameter. So we need to find the parameter first thing in the application. Once you find the parameter, we input some illegal characters. The step 2, insert illegal characters. What do you mean by inserting the illegal characters? There are few characters which we call it illegal characters, like backslash, single quote, double quote, colon. These are the illegal characters. So we place these illegal characters at the end of the parameter. Why do we place it? We place it to get the error. So when we put this particular illegal character and see what kind of error your application is generating. Okay. Now, if it is generating an SQL error, in that case, we can believe that, okay, your application is vulnerable to SQL injection. Now, once we figure out that application is vulnerable to SQL injection, the next step is we provide SQL commands and get the database. So to get the database, first thing, we need to find the database name. Once we have the database name, inside database, we need to find out the different tables we have. So second is we get the tables name. Inside tables, we have different columns. So we get the columns. Inside columns, we have data. So whatever data we need for columns, we get that. Okay, these are three simple steps we need to follow. Now, let's do it a practical manner. You will understand much better. Okay, I have already found a website which is vulnerable to SQL injection. So we'll do it both way. We'll do it manually and we'll do it automatically. Okay, and these are the commands I have already written for you guys to understand much better. Okay, this is the website we need to attack on. So the first step is we need to find the parameters. So how do you find the parameter? There are different ways. We can use different tools to get the parameter. We'll talk about that later. First, we'll understand the manual way. Okay. So what we do, we simply visit the website. We go to different tabs and we see, do we get any parameter here? No. Once I clicked on here, we didn't get any parameter. Let's say read more. Once I click read more, you see I have a parameter here which says ID equals to 55. This is one of the parameter, right? What is the second step? Second step is to provide the illegal character. How do we do that illegal character? Let's say single quote. Single quote is one of the illegal character. Backslash is one of the illegal character. Let's say backslash, illegal character. Now, once we have provided the illegal character, we can see that we got a SQL error here. This means that our website is vulnerable to SQL injection, right? Now we have figured out, okay, application is vulnerable to SQL injection. So let's say single quote. Right now, what's the second step? Second step is to find out the database name. Now, to find the database name, what we have to do is we need to first make sure that we need to provide the SQL commands here. Now, where do we provide the SQL commands? We provide the SQL commands here in the parameter. Okay. Now, first thing, once we have figured out that application is vulnerable to SQL injection, to get the database name, first thing we need to find out the number of columns in the application. So how do we find? The first step is to find the number of columns. How do we find it? Simple command, order by. So order by, let's say 5. Now what is the meaning of this command? Let's first understand that. I have written order by 5. Order by 5 means I want to know whether do we have 5 columns in the application. And then I give minus minus plus. Minus minus plus is basically commenting out. Commenting out means whatever commands we have after that, we comment out that and we make sure that these commands get executed. That's what commenting out means. So minus minus plus is for commenting out the commands. Okay, order by 5. Now when I give order by 5, we're still getting SQL error. This means that we do not have 5 columns in the application. So how do we get how many columns we have? This is a random, just hit and trial method. Let's say we write 3. When we wrote 3, we are getting normal page. We're not getting any error. This means that my statement is true. Yes, we do have 3 columns. But I'm not sure do we have 4 columns or not. So we need to find out. Let's say 4. No error. This means we do have 4 columns. But when we give 5, what do we get? This means we do not have 5 columns. This shows that we have, this confirms us that we have 4 columns in the application, right? Now, we found out the number of columns. Second step is to find the vulnerable column. How do you find the vulnerable column? Again, very simple command. All 1, 2, 3, 4. Like there are 4 columns, so we give 1, 2, 3, and 4. Union all select. It's an SQL command, very basic command, very simple command. Hit enter. We didn't get any error here. See, no error, nothing. It shows nothing. It shows simple page. Does it mean that our application is not vulnerable? No. Sometimes it happens with you also. There is a possibility. So what we do, we generate an error. How do we do that? So ID equals to 55. Let's say we make it a negative. Voila. Now we see It shows 2 and 3. This means that column number 2 and column number 3 are vulnerable, right? We got column number 2 and column number 3. Now, because column number 2 is little bit font size is more much bigger, so we can just simply type the commands, whatever we want to communicate with the database. We can communicate now at column number 2. How? Let's say I want to find the database name. So we just write simple command database function, hit enter. It tells me the database name, right? Now, we got the database name, we need the table name, then we need the column name, then we need the column data. Now further, there are the commands which we need to type, a little bit extracted version, a little bit lengthy commands. So instead of using manual way, we have a very good tool, we call it HAckbar. So you can download HAckbar from the internet, and here is the HAckbar. Let's load. Okay. Now, how do we use HAckbar? HAckbar is basically your extension in the Mozilla Firefox. So HAckbar for Quantum, this particular HAckbar will only run in your Mozilla Firefox only. Okay, so you can have Mozilla Firefox and download HAckbar for Quantum. Now, once your HAckbar is there, what you have to do is, first thing, it's a very simple tool. Don't get confused while looking at the tool. First thing is, here we have a load button, click on load. What load will do, whatever you have in the URL, it is going to load that. Okay. Then, which particular column is vulnerable? Column number 2. So you move your cursor to column number 2. Put your cursor over here. As I told you in the starting, it is the union-based SQL injection. So we have union-based SQL injection. So you go to union-based. Here, first thing what we need to find the database name. You go to the database name group concat, click over here. What it did, it has generated a command for you, SQL command. Here you can see at column number 2, select group concat schema name separator from information schema and 3, 4 and space minus minus plus. So it has generated a command for you, SQL command for you. Click on run. Run will basically execute this command, and we have the database name. There are 2 databases. We have information schema and another one. So information schema is the one you will find in every database. It's basically information about the database. So you don't find much juicy information here, but the second one, you will find the juicy information in this one. Now we have the database name. Let's get the table name. So let's delete this command. Now the cursor has to be on the column number 2. We need to get the table name. So after database, table name group concat, click on it. It's asking for the database name. So we have 2 databases. For which database it will need the table? So we need table for database number 2. Click here, command already, and run. And we have the tables. So these are the tables in the database. We're communicating with the database of the application. Then once you get the tables, we need to find the columns. Okay. Now it's asking for the table name. So there are so many tables we have found. We need to select one table at a time, and then we need to find the columns and then the data. Okay, so let's go one by one. We find the admin pass. Table name is admin pass. Okay, and your command is here and run. And we have these columns for this data. Admin underscore pass. We have the columns, right? Now inside the column, we have the data. So delete the command. Again, union based. We have the columns. Now data group concat. Here, now it's asking for the database name. What was the database name? Here's the database name. It's asking for the table name. Here's the table name and table name. It's asking for the columns. What was the columns? There were 3 columns. 3 columns. Now, for every column, we need to separate it via comma. Okay. and run, and we get the ID password of the admin. Now see, we're not able to figure out that what is the ID and what is the password, because here we don't have any space. So let's give it a space here. Way to spaces separate by comma and comma and space, and run, and we got it. So this is the admin ID and this is the admin password. And if we are able to find out the admin page, we can use this particular ID and password and we can log in into the application. Right? See how simple and easy it was to access the database of the application using few simple SQL commands, right? Now this is a manual way of doing it. This takes a lot of time, right, to create commands, to get the commands and all. We have made this particular thing automation. How automatically? We have a very good tool, we call it SQLmap. Using SQLmap, we don't have to do all these commands. We just have to give SQL commands, SQL map commands, and get every data. Okay, let's see how we do that. SQL map is already pre-installed in your Kali Linux. If it's not installed in your Kali Linux, first you will have to install the SQL map, and then you will be able to use the SQL map. How we use the SQL map? Just simply write SQL map hyphen H. Now, what is H? H is for help. What kind of help? It basically tells you what all commands you can use in SQL map. Okay, likewise, if you need to get the database, you can write simply DBS. You want the tables hyphen hyphen tables, you want the columns hyphen hyphen columns, you need to provide the database name. So likewise, we provide the database name hyphen D. You want to provide the table name hyphen T. You want to provide the column name hyphen C, like this. Right. So there are different functions, different commands you can use. You can go through this and you can get that. Now, let's exploit the target using SQL. To exploit the target using SQL map, you need to provide the URL along with the parameter. Okay. Now, how do we do that? SQL map hyphen u and the parameter. What is the application? This is the application. Copy that and here. Okay, then I want hyphen hyphen banner. What is banner? Banner means when it's going to work, SQL map is going to work, it is going to basically ask you a few questions and you have to answer in yes or no. So what we are hyphen banner is, it's basically tells to use its own intellect and answer yes or no on your own. We don't have to do anything in that. And hyphen DBS. DBS is for the database name. If the application is vulnerable to SQL map, SQL injection, get me the database name as well. And it takes a few minutes to run and we get the result. And we got the result. See, database name. What is the database name? Same as before. Now, I want table name. How? Hyphen D. Define the database name. I want tables. Hyphen hyphen. Hyphen hyphen tables. It will give me the tables. All the tables we have. We already have seen this data, right? Now, I want the columns. So hyphen T, table name, let's say admin underscore pass. COU. We need columns. Sorry, spelling mistake. We give columns, hyphen hyphen columns, we get the columns. See, we got the columns. We want the data, hyphen hyphen dump. So basically, hyphen hyphen dump will dump the data and we will be able to see the database of the columns. How will we get? One, this is the username and this is the password. See how quickly and how with the snap of finger we were able to find the database of the application. We were able to communicate